And we're off. Welcome, everyone, to the Sovryn Community Call, episode 54, I believe, July 6th, 2023. It's great to see all of you here. I think we've had a very exciting month when it comes to app updates, as well as new partnerships and integrations. We got all types of Web3 wallet apps, adopting sovereign swaps. We've got Exodus, that was big news. Exodus embracing sovereign dollar. We've got DeFi Llama listing, the Nanoli listing, all types of stuff that I'm excited to share with you all. So welcome one, welcome all. Just some ground rules. Um, if you have a question, feel free to type it up in the community chat. Of course, we're going to periodically open up the floor for any questions, so feel free to just unmute yourself if you would like to comment or ask something to the Sovereign Core team. Until then, I prefer if you keep yourself muted so that there's no background noise. And yeah, let's kick this off with Yago. Please take the stage.
Hey guys, great to be here again with you. So, I'm going to be relatively short today. There's a lot that John Light would like to cover, but what I would like to point out is some background information on Exodus. Both in terms of more generally the sort of strategic impulse driving this, and also around Exodus themselves. So one of the things that we've been placing an emphasis on is creating greater connectivity of Sovryn to the rest of the world, making it much easier for users to find and to use Sovryn. We're calling this the connective tissue, and this means bridges, it means integrations into third-party applications, it means integration with other DAPPs. We're starting to see more and more of this. So we now have integration with Rango, which is a bridging system. There's several other bridging systems which are being integrated now. I think another one was announced today. We had Wolby Wallet announce the integration of Sovryn, and I expect that they'll soon be integrating the sovereign dollar. There's a number of other wallets that we're in conversation with, like Frontier Wallet. And within this, a core driver is what we've been talking about, is that over the coming few months, we're going to want to and emphasize and as a community work towards generating that kind of connective tissue, specifically with a view to providing paths for users to acquire, hold sovereign dollar and generate demand for sovereign dollar, as well as bring additional liquidity into the system. Now, within that context, Exodus Wallet is particularly important, I think, for two reasons. The first is Exodus is a publicly traded US company, and as a publicly traded US company, there's some symbolic significance there. They're also a significant player, and they have chosen to begin to acquire sovereign dollars to hold in their corporate treasury. This means that sovereign dollar is now a publicly disclosed asset as part of a corporate treasury. It opens the gates both from a reputational perspective and from a precedent perspective for other players to start doing the same thing. And we also are expecting them, based on their own communications, to be looking to increase their exposure to and holdings of the sovereign dollar. And so that in and of itself can represent a not insignificant generator of demand. One interesting thing is that they pointed out that right now, specifically Exodus have managed to become one of the companies that have direct access to the Fed, and with the ability to directly buy from them corporate treasury, T-bills, which today are providing on the about 6% interest, right? And so they can hold their funds with the Fed, directly with the Fed, and earn 6% interest, which is, what is considered the riskless rate. And despite this, they still think that there's a place to have censorship-resistant money, and they also have expressed a concern that this 6% rate is subject to change, and they need to diversify into opportunities which could allow them to additionally earn yield even under different types of interest rate regimes. Beyond that, Exodus are now looking to go further. They want to bring the sovereign dollar to their users, and they are the biggest Bitcoin wallet in the world. Not just the biggest non-custodial Bitcoin wallet in the world, but the biggest in the world based on the metrics we have available, with 4.5 million users. And this is a massive channel. And so over the coming months, we're going to be looking to help them integrate more and more of our core functionalities into the core functionality of their application. And there's a role that we could all play here, which is we can all become Exodus users, understand how Exodus works, so that as they're integrating stuff, we can provide feedback on an ongoing basis on how they can best provide access to Sovryn and Sovryn products through their application. And so please stay tuned, because of the coming days and couple of weeks, we're going to be trying to create some programs where we can get more of you guys involved, provide prizes for helping, and start seeing more Sovryn users using Exodus, so that we have a large body of testers and a large body of Exodus users who are helping us and helping Exodus perfect their UI, perfect their integrations, so that they can then be released to their 4.5 million users. And then the other big thing about this is, if we're successful, not only are we going to be bringing a large number of new users via Exodus, but this is the kind of thing which represents a great opportunity to demonstrate and replicate. And what I mean by that is, with the sovereign dollar being purchased by Exodus for their treasury, that is a demonstration of the value of the sovereign dollar. And now we're already getting inbound inquiries from others who are interested in doing the same thing potentially, right? So demonstrate, replicate. Same thing with a deep integration into the Exodus wallet. If that is successful, if we're able to demonstrate value for Exodus users, and value for Sovryn, then it's going to be much easier to then replicate that with other significant third parties and wallets in the future. And so with each of these successes, I think we can expect to see a accelerating cascade of momentum. And speaking of accelerating cascade of momentum, I'd like to now hand the floor over to John Light.
Thanks, Iago. Thanks for the introduction. Today I'm going to be talking about what we just published on the blog, on the Sovryn blog. If you could click forward to the next slide, please. So today on the blog we published a quote-unquote official roadmap for leaving alpha. As longtime Sovryns know, the app that we have online, alpha.sovryn.app, the app we know and love. It's been there since the very beginning of the project, and it's had the alpha label the entire time for the past couple of years. And the main reason for that is just that we know that there are significant improvements that could be made both to the user interface as well as to some of the underlying infrastructure that is needed to make the Sovryn application and the Sovryn user experience a level of quality that we feel is deserving of dropping this alpha label and moving on to a more general release. And that's what we are have been working towards. And today we're sharing, what are the steps that we have set for ourselves to complete that process. The good news is that we're most of the way done. So this list of to-do items that we see on the slide here is a list that we created for ourselves back in 2021, shortly after the project first publicly launched. We knew that we were launching with that alpha label, and we asked ourselves, what do we need to do to feel comfortable dropping that alpha label and going for a general release? And we came up with this list, and we've been building against this list ever since. So far, it's just been an internal list, but today we're sharing it publicly and giving a status update and reviewing what we have left to do. So the things that we've done so far are to implement bidirectional fast BTC. Folks who were around in 2021 and even early 2022 might remember that at one point in time, you could only deposit Bitcoin into fast BTC to convert main chain BTC into rootstock BTC. But in early 2022, we launched bidirectional fast BTC so that you could also withdraw main chain BTC and convert your rootstock BTC back into main chain BTC. So that was a big improvement and also really important for us because for a general release, it's really important that users be able to go back and forth and not just come in one way. We also did a system-wide contract security audit. We published this on the wiki earlier this year. We did that audit with Certic. Most of the problems have been addressed. The ones that still remain are governance related, and those will be fixed when we do the Bitocracy 3.0 transition, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But for anybody who's interested in reading the results of that audit, they're in the audit section of the wiki. We also published a blog post at the time that you can go back and check out as well. We wanted to improve the onboarding experience so that new users that were coming in would have a clear indication of what they needed to do to start using Sovryn, to connect their wallet, to get funds into the system, to then navigate throughout the application. There was a time when this wasn't actually very intuitive. And so we have made improvements both within the Sovryn Alpha web app as well as in other projects like the Perpetuals app that we developed. And we took those learnings from making those iterative updates and then observing the results in terms of user feedback and improvements of conversion along the user journey. And we've taken the best of what we did there, and we've implemented that in the new Sovryn.app. And we're going to continue iterating on that and improving that to try to make the onboarding experience as intuitive and seamless as possible for new users, even new users that don't have a rootstock wallet yet. We also did, this is a relatively small update compared to the others, but we did a lending curves update in order to make the lending curve interest rates better, even when utilization of a lending pool is relatively low. And that we wanted to do so that when we leave alpha and go to a general release, if we have new lending pools come online, new lenders can still have a good experience. They can still earn a relatively good interest rate, while at the same time keeping the borrowing side of the interest rates competitive with the rest of the market. The previous parameterization of the lending curve was just, it wasn't really accomplishing that. So we did an update to the lending curves last year to try to improve that for lenders. And then the remaining items that we have on the to-do list, which are currently works in progress, are launching Bitocracy 3.0 and re-implementing core features from Sovryn Alpha in the new Sovryn.app web app. So if you could go to the next slide, please, we'll dig into these to-do items a little bit deeper. So launching Bitocracy 3.0. This is a project that, again, longtime Sovereigns are well familiar with. We've been talking about it basically since the very beginning. But there have so far been two phases of Bitocracy. Bitocracy 1.0, which is where SOV holders were completely delegating their power to the Exchequer committee, and the Exchequer was making like all of the decisions related to smart contract updates, treasury, deciding budgets, and the roadmap, and pretty much everything that could be decided for the project Exchequer was doing. That was in the very earliest primordial kind of stages of the project. And then in early 2021, we launched Bitocracy 2.0, which was the staking system as we know it today, where SOV holders could then stake their SOV and participate in various aspects of the governance through the Bitocracy system. And we've had, we're up to like 50 something SIPs at this point that have, modified or approved changes to the various different parts of the system, including spending proposals, and parameter updates, smart contract updates, and things like that. And that has been running, like I said, since early 2021. But the long-term vision has always been to completely turn over power over the smart contract system, at least, to Bitocracy, to the SOV stakers. And we're getting one step closer to that with Bitocracy 3.0. So what we have left to do for Bitocracy 3.0 is to update the governance and Guardian transfer scripts. These are just little pieces of software that will actually implement the transition in software. We have to, well, this isn't actually a hard requirement, but it's something that we want to do before the transition is done. There's a fix to the loan tokens that needs to be done in any case, because some fees that were earned by the old fee sharing contract, we have a new fee sharing contract, but in the old fee sharing contract, some of the fees that were earned are actually stuck because those tokens weren't able to be withdrawn from the contract. So we want to fix the loan tokens so that stakers from back when we were using the old fee sharing contract can actually withdraw those fees and cash them in if they want to. And we just want to get that done before the transition because it'll be a little bit more logistically challenging if we have to do a SIP for that. But currently that contract is owned by Exchequer, so we can use the Exchequer multisig to update it. So that's what we're going to do before the transition is complete. We want to introduce a pauser role on the protocol settings contract. Currently, only the owner of the contract can pause the protocol settings contract, which means that once we pass control or transfer control of the contract to Bitocracy, we would have to do a SIP in order to pause that contract. And the whole point of the pausing system is to be able to react quickly to vulnerabilities that are discovered. And if we have to do a SIP, we would have to effectively reveal publicly what the vulnerability is, and there would be this multi-day delay between the time we discover it to the time that we can pause the contract. So we are going to introduce this pauser role so that we can give the multi-sig permission only to pause the contract without having to go through the SIP process. And that brings me to the last to-do item, which is creating new Guardian multi-sigs. There are technically two Guardians in the system. There's a Bitocracy Guardian and a Contract Guardian. The Bitocracy Guardian can veto proposals that are put forward to Bitocracy. And the Contract Guardian can pause or freeze certain functionality on certain contracts in order to prevent vulnerabilities from being exploited. Currently, both of those roles are held by the same multi-sig, the Exchequer multi-sig. But we actually want to split these roles into two different multi-sigs with two distinctly different groups of people for security reasons, as well as to prevent conflicts of interest between these two multi-sigs, because they have complementary sets of powers. And we want to try to separate the groups that have those different powers. So that is a work in progress, and that's what we have to do to launch Bitocracy 3.0. Next slide, please. The last big project that we have on the to-do list for leaving alpha is re-implementing the core features from Sovryn Alpha in Sovryn.app. Just today, we released the first item that we have on the list, which is AMM swaps. So now on Sovryn.app, on the convert page, you'll notice a few more assets that you can convert between on the drop-down menu. And those assets are actually being sourced from the AMM. So you can do AMM swaps directly from Sovryn.app. The next features that we want to migrate over are staking and staking rewards. So you can stake SOV and collect your staking rewards in Sovryn.app. Then we're doing borrowing and lending using the Sovryn lending protocol. Currently have zero borrowing implemented in Sovryn.app, but now we're also going to have fixed interest loans using the Sovryn lending protocol in Sovryn.app. Again, this is a work in progress. And then we're going to have creating and voting on proposals, so the rest of the Bitocracy system. Cross-chain bridging, so that users can bridge in assets from other chains and also bridge those assets back out to other chains, and potentially even bridging Rootstock native assets to other chains like SOV or the Sovryn dollar. And finally, having AMM liquidity provision and liquidity mining rewards implemented in Sovryn.app, so that the users can provide liquidity to the AMM and collect their liquidity mining rewards directly in Sovryn.app. And that's the scope that we've defined so far. And as we get closer to finishing that, we'll see if there's anything left that we really want to do, or if we'll just call it done. But right now, that's our defined set of scope. And once we get to the end of that to-do list, we will feel comfortable, setting a sunset date for the Sovryn Alpha web app, and eventually, leaving the Sovryn Alpha web app behind, putting it out to pasture, so to say, sending it off, and focusing completely on developing and maintaining Sovryn.app going forward. But once we complete these two big projects, the Bitocracy 3.0 transition and re-implementing core features from Sovryn Alpha and Sovryn.app, then we will kind of officially be dropping the alpha label and considering Sovryn ready for general release. And that's all I have for this section. I don't know if we're doing questions now or later, but I will turn it back over to the moderator.
Yeah, I think Landia, maybe now could be a good time to field questions or comments.
Yes. Do we have questions from anybody? I see Column's name highlighted, but I don't hear you. Do you have a question? All right. So there might be a microphone problem if you're trying to speak. Feel free to type in the community chat if you have something. Otherwise, does anybody else have questions before we move on to the developer update section? If not, I have a quick one for you, John Light. These other 5 features that we plan to move from the alpha to the main release, are they in order, or is it just a list?
This is our current ordering. We might change things if priorities demand it, based on users or partners or something like that. If for some reason things need to change around, we will. But this is actually the order that we have planned to do it right now.
Got it. Wouldn't we want the AMM LP and liquidity miner rewards to be sooner, given that the AMM swaps are live, and that like the AMM pools, like it's very, very close to the liquidity miner rewards part. I don't know, it might make sense to make that earlier. That's neither here nor there. It's just something that came to mind.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. Right now, it's last on the list because what we want to do is when we bring it over, we also want to enable people to create custom pools, and that is like designing the LP page to accommodate for that. And doing the infrastructure work on the smart contract side to enable that requires careful design considerations, and so it's a kind of chunky piece of work. We might move it up. It depends on how the other projects go. But right now, because of the considerations that need to be taken into account, we kind of want to last. But that's just the current thinking. Sure. So recent releases included on Sovryn Alpha, we had to deprecate Wallet Connect v1. There was a breaking change to Wallet Connect where we either had to update to v2 or deprecate Wallet Connect altogether. While it was going to take a lot of effort to update from v1 to v2 in Sovryn Alpha because there were a lot of other dependencies related in the wallet connection library that would also need to be updated. And so we ultimately decided, because we're moving towards deprecating Sovryn Alpha anyways, that it wasn't worth the effort to do that. So we made the decision to deprecate Wallet Connect in Sovryn Alpha and publish instructions on the wiki for alternative ways to connect using other wallet connection methods. At the same time, we also, on Sovryn.app, we did do the update from Wallet Connect v1 to Wallet Connect v2, so users can still update connect to their wallet using connect to the DAPP using Wallet Connect. We also did some smaller releases showing a warning message when the user is low on gas, which could lead the transaction to fail. And we also hid some unintended wallet connection warnings that were coming through when users were connecting MetaMask in certain circumstances. Those were just some small quality of life updates. The big update that we've been working on, which I mentioned on the previous slide, was updating the convert page to support AMM swaps. One of the interesting features here that came along with this AMM swap integration is that we built out this software package that we're calling Smart Routing. So over time, we're going to be adding more asset sources that that conversions could actually be routed through, and multiple different asset sources could support the same assets. For example, on the AMM, you can convert sovereign dollar into Bitcoin, but you can also use Zero to convert sovereign dollar into Bitcoin using the redemption feature, or you could convert sovereign dollar into Bitcoin using money on chain. What the smart routing feature does is it actually looks at all those routes and it says which one is going to give you the most Bitcoin. And then whichever one is going to give you the most Bitcoin, that's the route that it picks, so that when you do the transaction, it'll send your transaction through that route. So you always get the most of what the asset is that you're trying to buy. Currently, the smart routing we only have support for Mint and AMM swaps as the routes that are supported, but we're going to be adding more routes over time. We also launched the Mint and Zero Bug Bounty program. So for any security researchers out there, smart contract devs or auditors, if you want to get a chance to earn some bug bounties, go check that out on ImmuneFi and help keep the Sovryn smart contract system secure. We put SIP64, which was a code cleanup release for removing some bridge functions from Mint, up for a vote. It was actually rejected by Bitocracy due to a low turnout. It got 100% support, but it was a few percentages off on the quorum that was required. So that proposal actually failed. It wasn't the sexiest proposal, and we also didn't do a ton of communications around it. So what we're thinking about doing, since it did get a high level of support, is putting it up for a vote again, but putting it up again at the same time that we're doing another important update to Mint. So that way the proposal will hopefully get more attention and therefore be more likely to be approved. We don't have a timeline of when that's going to happen yet, but that's something that SOV stakers, voters can expect to see at some point in the future. Next slide, please. So soon to be released, on Sovryn.app, we're working on adding money on chain and zero redemptions to the smart router that I mentioned. So if you have DOC or sovereign dollars, you'll be able to convert them into Bitcoin if that route offers you the most Bitcoin for your conversion. And similarly for the zero redemptions, if the zero redemption feature would give you the most Bitcoin for sovereign dollars to Bitcoin, then your conversion will get routed through that path. Otherwise, it'll get routed somewhere else, wherever you will get the most of what you're trying to convert to. We're also working on staking and staking rewards, so that users can stake SOV and collect their staking rewards in the Sovryn.app. On the smart contract side, we're working on some fee share claiming efficiency improvements. We know that the costs could be lower. We know that there's some low-hanging fruit that we can pick there to make that happen. So we're working on lowering the gas costs of claiming for SOV stakers to claim the fees that they've earned from the protocol. And we're also working on making it easier to claim your rewards. Currently, for each asset that you claim, you have to click a button for each asset that you want to claim. But we're working on making it possible to claim all of the fees earned using a single button. You might have to do multiple transactions because it might cost more gas than fits within the rootstock block gas limit to claim the transactions, but at least you only have to click a single button to do it. You don't have to click a button for every asset. So we're working on that. And if it doesn't come out with the staking and staking rewards update in Sovryn.app, it'll come out shortly after that. And we're also wrapping up work on the first release of the builder portal, which will include mostly front-end content or content for front-end developers and designers about our front-end SDK and design UI library. So definitely keep your eyes peeled for that. Next slide. And then finally, what we have work in progress, which is a bit further out. In Sovryn.app, we'll be implementing lending and borrowing, which are currently implemented in Sovryn Alpha, so that users can deposit Bitcoin and sovereign dollars into the lending pools, and other users can borrow those assets at fixed interest rates. And we have the ongoing work on Bitocracy 3.0. We're kind of working on all of these different projects in parallel. The implementation scripts, the new safe multi-sigs for the Guardians, and a staking contract security review. Since we're going to be turning over control as part of this Bitocracy 3.0 transition, turning over control of all of the rest of the smart contracts to Bitocracy, which is secured in part by the staking contract. We want to make sure that the staking contract is secure before we do that. And so we're doing a deeper security tool review using some advanced smart contract security analysis tools, just so that we feel extra comfortable, extra certain about the security of that contract before we do the handoff of governance to Bitocracy. And yeah, that's what we've got going on the development side right now. Back to you, Inga.
I'm sure we all loved it. Does anyone here have any questions on all the exciting details that John Light just disclosed? Anybody out there? I see some approval from Legosi in the chat. Shout outs to you. If not, we can move on to the next section. Who do we have up next? We got French Victory with adoption updates. Welcome to the stage.
Thank you, Inga. Hello, Sovrins. Good to be speaking today to all of you. This is a short adoption update. Yeah, next slide is good. First order of business is, of course, Exodus. We have had a very, very successful launch with Exodus. Our tweet was very, very high performing for us with over 105 views. Normally, our tweets, good ones, get 6,000 views. Average one is, less than that. But also, Exodus Twitter post got an exceptional amount of views for them. They are an account with, I think, over 70,000 followers. Usually, they get around 3,000 views for a tweet. Even high production value ones like video tweets and others, they only get 3, 4, 6. This one got 25,000 tweets. So I think, like we've seen in the past, actual progress in the real world gets the most excitement out of people, and for good reason. We all want to see um, things happening, and inch by inch, they do. Although this one is a pretty big inch. Next slide, please. We got some pretty good press coverage on this globally, with the block giving us a very nice write-up. And also, this tweet in particular was a high performance one with over 13,000 views. Next slide, please. Other than that, we've started an effort to list our yield opportunities in DeFi aggregator sites. Currently, we went live on DeFi Llama, and it's only our AMMs and lending pools. But that's a good start, and we've already started to see some positive traction both in user engagement and website visitors. We are still working on understanding the data fully, and I hope to be able to present it in the next community call. The further steps are several. First of all, it's more listings in more sites, and particularly Gecko Terminal, which is the other big DeFi aggregator site, and additionally to list the staking pool, which you can see on the right hand side the formidable yield that people can make on the staking pool, more than 27% 90-day average if they go for the maximum staking period, which is great. And to list the zero stability pool. Both of these require some development efforts. It will take a little bit of time, but I'm confident that when we do, they will manage to get the proper attention from potential investors. Next slide, please. Which brings me to another listing opportunity. This one is called Magic Square. It's a Web3 aggregators. It basically all Web3 things are there, games and others, but also legitimate projects like Kraken or 1inch. To get listed there, you need to vote, and if you might think that this website is a bit off-brand for us, right? With hot offers and rewards and boosts and everything like that. But I think that being listed there is all right, and to get exposed to people who might be new to crypto, new to yield opportunities, is also good. And I'd like to ask your opinion if you also think so, and if you do, would you be happy to register there and vote? You would need to connect a wallet, but it doesn't cost anything. Yeah, happy to get your opinions. And is that it? I think that's it. That's it for me. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great idea, and I think great minds do think alike. We're working on outlining something like that. If you have any experience, Legosi, in producing or organizing things like that, particularly on DeFi, which comes with its own set of challenges, I'd be happy to chat for sure.
Hey, Galandia, this is Lovic. How you doing? Um, the great updates. Sorry, I haven't been able to make the last few calls, but I'm glad I made this one for sure. So just a shout out to all the great progress that's here. Maybe on a sidebar, we had some on and off ramp conversations. I don't know, months ago. Any progress with those sorts of things, whether it's the ones I introduced or other similar ones for card-based boarding of funds, in addition to this great sort of DeFi cross connection, I'm looking for like TradFi plugins. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Just as an update, I have made some progress on the U.S. side. We've got connections into multiple banks now due to the fallout from FTX. So I'll ping you offline with any some updates. So for U.S. stuff.
I have just something which might be of interest to people. There's going to be, I think, an interesting spaces starting in about half an hour, which is being organized by Eric Wall and Udi Wertheimer of Taproot Wizards. So it's being organized by the Taproot Wizards account, and it's the topic is what can Bitcoiners learn from Ethereum, and their guest speaker is Vitalik Buterin. So that might be an interesting lesson related to a lot of the stuff that we're doing. Starts in about half an hour. Um, Maybe I would just point out that we transitioned to having the tokenomics governance calls once a month now. The most recent call was yesterday, and you can find the recording. I think it's also in the forum. And anyone who's interested more in the metrics side, that could be an interesting call.